And listen, every World Cup, there's a wonderful story. From a country that nobody expected to get in to they expected them to get blown out, I think, at the beginning, everybody thought. And they are celebrating, they're dancing, they're enjoying something you dream of as a kid, to play in a World Cup, to get out of the group. They are living every single moment. They're enjoying every moment. And congratulations to Cabo Verde, because that is absolutely fantastic.
That's what football was all about, isn't it, Michael? We saw post-match, from the fans to the players, the coaching staff, everyone was almost crying with joy.
Yeah, I'm just in awe of what we've just seen at this World Cup. And you talk about the most inspirational stories when we come into major international tournament. This is one of the most inspirational stories I've ever seen in my lifetime. I've actually been to the country of Cabo Verde. I was actually supposed to make my international debut against Cabo Verde. The fax machine didn't work, unfortunately, so I had to wait for the next match against Equatorial Guinea. But all jokes aside, this is incredible to see, Adam. I've seen this country of 500,000 people come from absolutely nothing. It was only a couple decades ago that they even had an international program, a men's national team. You go back to maybe 2003 when they scored one of their first goals on the international stage, to 2026 when they're now playing in their first ever knockout round at a World Cup. And for me, you mentioned dreaming. Yeah. And as a kid, you dream big. And for me, I'm really inspired because this is a Cabo Verde side that's been dreaming big for a long time.
Well, to put it into context, Cape Verde's population is about the same population as Colorado Springs. So, I mean, Cello's a Colorado guy, so
I know what you're talking about. If I know it, I feel it.
I mean, if Colorado Springs picked a team out of Colorado Springs natives, how would they get on to the World Cup?
They would not be with it.
They wouldn't get out the group.
No. No, I don't know. There's a lot of military there.
Okay.
And they have their leagues and they play. You know, they're
team.
rough and tough. But yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up right there. The size of Colorado Springs to find these players, to be able to put them together, to get them to believe in themselves and believe that they can do something that's so special like this. That, you know, like I said, when you talk about stories, you talk about World Cups, and you talk about things that just inspire people, this is going to go down in the history book.
And also, I remember doing preview shows after preview shows, thanks Golazo Network, leading up to the World Cup. We thought this was the easy group to predict, right? You had a few groups where it's like, I've got no idea who's going to qualify. This was the one where you were like, yeah, it's going to be Spain are going to win the group, Uruguay are going to finish second, Saudi Arabia probably third, and Cape Verde, good luck. You're going to go home with nothing. Yeah. I mean, we had no idea this would happen.
Yeah, look, everyone loves a good underdog story, and this is the ultimate underdog story. I don't know what the odds were, but in every single odds maker's books, they were probably dead last, or amongst one of the dead last teams in the entire World Cup. But for me, I've been seeing something brewing in the water. You've seen something coming if you followed African football for the last decade, where Cabo Verde is one of the biggest underdog stories on the African continent. They have one of the biggest underdog inspirational managers in Bubista. And I just thought coming into the World Cup that he just gave everyone this sense of hope, that he told his players, we're not here to be participants, we're here to dream big. And this is a Cabo Verde men's national team that isn't like your Nigerias, isn't like your Cote d'Ivoire, isn't like Ghana, Egypt, Morocco. They don't even have the right funding to be at this World Cup. They don't even have the right funding to scout players. One of their best players at the World Cup, Pico Lopez, was found on LinkedIn, Adam. LinkedIn. You can laugh now, but that is what the constraints they're working with. So this is one of the more inspirational stories I've ever seen at a World Cup. And you can go through the entire team. You mentioned inspiration. I think of the Cabo Verde people. And what a testament this is, what a hope this is going to give them for just generations to come. I'm just at a loss for words.
Cello, Michael makes a good point about Bubista just being, and when I look at him on the touchline, he's a real calming influence. It never gets too high, never gets too low. He looks like he's almost just going out for a beer, isn't he? He's just there in his jeans. He's going out with the boys. And you've played under so many different coaches, I'm sure, with completely different personalities. But when you're a player and you're up against the best in the world and you can look to the touchline and you've got someone there who's like, I got this, like, we're cool. That must be so sort of give you an inner calm. Yeah,
you know what's relaxing is when the coach believes in you and you believe in what the coach is preaching you and is selling you. You know what I mean? And I think when you look at this team, they believe. They believe, because I never want Bubista running down the sideline screaming and yelling like some of these other coaches do doing these gestures, trying to get the cameras on him. He's always walking calm. He's got his arm around a player. And I think for a lot of players, we had Clive Charles, and Clive Charles was the exact same way, God rest his soul. But he'd put his arm around you. When he put his arm around you, it's like your dad putting
like
you
a father figure.
And you can just feel the sincerity, the honesty that he's giving you. And I think that's what you're looking at. These players believe in what he's telling them. He believes that they can win. He believes that they can get into the next round. I'm telling you, this group, I don't know them, but just watching them on TV, they believe they can beat Argentina or get a result. So that's a dangerous team to me.
Yeah, speaking of Argentina, it is the great Messi and all of the rest of them who loom in the next round, in the round of 32. It's going to be a wonderful occasion for all of those fans who travel to the US to watch their nation. Any chance, would you say, Michael, that they can trouble them?
At the World Cup, there's always a chance. There was a chance, and no one saw it coming when Saudi Arabia beat Argentina. And you might say that's a one-off, but that's all this Cabo Verde side is looking for. On paper, there's no chance in hell.
No.
It's Lionel Messi, it's Argentina. They're just stacked. But we've seen crazier things happen at World Cups.
Spain.
We've seen that as well. So for me, we have to keep in context how special it is. I think sometimes you go and you want to play championship manager and say, okay, Messi's going to go against you. Okay, that's a mismatch. But Cabo Verde has done something that only 2 other African sides have done in the World Cup, which has gone unbeaten in the group stage. The previous side was Senegal in 2002 and Cameroon in 1982. Doing what they've done is just slim to none. And when you look forward, there's some players who will have to have the game of their lives. And every single match for Cabo Verde, someone has stepped up to be the hero. In the opener against Spain, Vozinha, and his social media is proof of it. He was the hero. In the next match, Kevin Pena, he was one of the heroes, and Aurelia Valera was the next hero to get the goals. My big question is not who's going to stop Messi, but who's going to be potentially the next hero for Cabo Verde. So Argentina, in my opinion, probably have way too much quality. But I just want to celebrate what they've just done because it's incredible.
If they just stick to what they're doing, they're going to be in the game.
Yeah.
If they try to do too much or they try to take it to another level, now you're doing things you haven't done in those 3 games. Now you open yourself up. If you don't open yourself up to Argentina and you play the way you've played, you've got a chance. Because maybe Messi has a bad game. Maybe he does. I mean, it's possible. We've seen it. It is possible. But I think this is the beauty of our sport. This day and age, anybody can beat anybody. And they're the ones that have proven this World Cup.
Michael, what does this mean for African football? Because I think in a World Cup context in the past, often African teams have been quite lopsided. We've had the great teams, and I'll put them in that category, although they haven't necessarily won a World Cup. There have been some great African sides who've gone a long way, but then other smaller countries that have just had no chance and everyone's really performed. What does that mean for the continent as a whole?
It's a great question, Adam. And look, as probably the biggest African football aficionado at this network, I just love talking about it. I'm just floored to see the representation of African football at this World Cup. For a long time, I've felt that African football has been marginalized, has been ill-represented, has been ill-marketed in the media and how people perceive it. And finally, just finally, when you give African football a chance, an ecosystem to thrive, when you give it opportunity, which is what every kid in Africa, every coach in Africa, every team in Africa has been begging for, there's hope. And so now the World Cup, first time you've ever seen 10 teams at a World Cup. There was a time in 1990, you were there, where there were only 3 African teams. 1990, that wasn't long ago. Now 2026, 10 teams get in. And how many teams are about to make the knockout round? Potentially 8. And my paper just fell.
But they're like Concacaf. We keep growing, they keep growing, right? The only thing we need now is what? You got to win it. If you want that respect, we have to win it. A team from Africa has to win it. Imagine if Morocco would have reached the final last year, what that would have done for African football. Just like a CONCACAF team reaching the final. So I think we're at a point where everybody respects, because when you're playing Ivory Coast and you're playing all these teams, they're good. Now getting there to a final and winning it, imagine what that would do for our country, Africa. Imagine what that would do hosting that trophy there.